Billionaire fired his driver for being poor, then the next day, that driver saved his life. Marcus Wellington stood in his marble foyer, watching his driver through the window. The man was counting crumpled dollar bills from his wallet, probably deciding between gas money and dinner again. Marcus felt disgusted. How could someone so poor work for someone so successful? It was embarrassing. "James!" Marcus called out sharply. "Get in here. Now." James hurried inside, his worn shoes squeaking against the polished floor. At 52, he had been Marcus's driver for 8 years. His uniform was always clean, even if it was starting to fray at the edges. His wife had been mending it for months because they couldn't afford a new one. "Yes, Mr. Wellington," James asked, removing his cap respectfully. Marcus didn't even look up from his phone. "You're fired." The words hit James like a physical blow. "Sir? I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" "Look at yourself," Marcus said with disgust. "Your shoes are falling apart. Your car barely runs. You're always worried about money. It reflects poorly on me. I can't have my business associates see me with someone who looks so desperate." James felt his world crumbling. "Mr. Wellington, please. I've been loyal to you for 8 years. I've never been late, never complained, never made enough money to dress the part," Marcus interrupted. "That's the problem. I need a driver who looks successful, not someone who makes people wonder if I'm cheap with my employees." The irony was crushing. James was poor precisely because Marcus paid him barely enough to survive, despite his billions. But James had never complained. He had a family to feed. "I have 3 kids, sir. My wife is sick. I need this job." Marcus waved dismissively. "Not my problem. Clean out your locker and leave your uniform. Security will escort you out." As James walked away, his shoulders shaking, Marcus felt nothing. In his world, weakness was disgusting. Poor people chose to be poor. He had no sympathy for those who couldn't make it in life. That night, James sat at his kitchen table, staring at the termination letter. His wife, Sarah, was in the next room, coughing violently. Her medication cost $300 a month, money they didn't have. His daughter Emma, just 16, looked up from her homework. "Dad, what's wrong?" James tried to smile. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just work stuff." But Emma wasn't fooled. She'd seen her father work double shifts, skip meals, and wear the same clothes for years just to keep their family afloat. She'd watched him come home exhausted every night, but still help her with math homework. She'd seen him give up his dream so she could have Hayes. "Dad, I can quit school and get a job." "No," James said firmly. "Your education is the most important thing. We'll figure this out." But inside, James was breaking. At 52, who would hire him? He had no college degree, no special skills except loyalty and hard work. Those things didn't seem to matter anymore. Meanwhile, Marcus was at an exclusive restaurant, laughing with friends about firing his pathetic driver. "You should have seen his face," Marcus chuckled, acting like it was the end of the world. "These people have no backbone." His friend Richard raised his glass. "Good riddance. You deserve better." Marcus nodded, already planning to hire a younger, better-dressed driver. Someone who would make him look good. The next morning, Marcus woke up feeling triumphant. He'd sleep better knowing he wouldn't have to see James's worried face anymore. He called his assistant to arrange for a temporary driver while he found a permanent replacement. "Actually, sir," his assistant said nervously, "there's been a mix-up with the scheduling. No one's available until this afternoon." Marcus was furious. He had an important meeting across town. Then called James back. He can do one last job. But when they called James, there was no answer. His phone had been disconnected. He couldn't afford the bill. "Fine," Marcus snapped. "I'll drive myself." He climbed into his luxury sedan, still seething. How dare James be unreachable when Marcus needed him? Even fired, the man should be grateful for any work. As Marcus drove through the city, his anger consumed him. He was texting his lawyer about a business deal, barely watching the road. The meeting was crucial, a merger worth hundreds of millions. Nothing else mattered. That's when he saw the truck. It was running a red light, barreling straight toward the intersection Marcus was entering. Time slowed down. Marcus saw the driver's panicked face, heard the screaming of brakes that wouldn't stop in time. He was going to die. Marcus froze, his hands locked on the steering wheel. The truck was seconds away from crushing him. This was it. All his money, all his success, meant nothing now. Suddenly, someone yanked his car door open. Strong hands grabbed him, pulling him from the driver's seat just as the truck slammed into his car. The vehicle crumpled like paper, the driver's seat completely crushed. If he'd been sitting there 1 second longer, he would have been killed instantly. Marcus hit the pavement hard, his expensive suit tearing. He looked up, dazed and bleeding, to see who had saved him. It was James. James knelt beside him, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt, Mr. Wellington? Can you move?" Marcus stayed in shock. "James? What? How did you?" "I was walking to a job interview," James explained, helping Marcus sit up. "I saw what was about to happen and ran." The truck driver stumbled out, apologetic and shaken. "I'm so sorry. My brakes failed. I couldn't stop." Police and paramedics arrived quickly. As they checked Marcus over, he couldn't stop staring at James. The man he'd fired for being poor had just risked his own life to save him. "Why?" Marcus whispered. "Why did you help me? After what I did to you?" James looked confused. "Because it was the right thing to do. You're a human being, Mr. Wellington. Money doesn't change that." Those words hit Marcus harder than the pavement had. Here was a man who had every reason to hate him, who had lost his livelihood because of Marcus's cruelty, and yet he'd risked everything to save Marcus's life. The paramedic confirmed what Marcus already knew. If you'd been in that car 1 second longer, you'd be dead. This man saved your life. As they loaded Marcus into the ambulance, he grabbed James's hand. "Come with me, please." At the hospital, as doctors treated Marcus's minor injuries, he finally understood something that all his money had never taught him. True worth had nothing to do with bank accounts or expensive clothes. It was about character, compassion, and courage. James had all three. Marcus had none. Over the next few days, as Marcus recovered, he learned more about James's life than he had in 8 years of employment. He discovered that James donated blood every month to help sick children. He volunteered at a homeless shelter on weekends. He'd once given his last $20 to a stranded family, then walked 5 miles home in the rain. James was rich in all the ways that mattered. Marcus was bankrupt in his soul. Marcus also learned about Sarah's illness, about Emma's straight-A grades despite working part-time to help the family, about James's son who'd earned a scholarship but couldn't accept it because the family needed his income. "I've been a fool," Marcus said when James visited him in the hospital. "Not just about firing you. About everything." James sat quietly, listening. "I judge you for being poor, but I never asked why. I never considered that maybe I was part of the problem. I paid you barely enough to survive while I spent more on wine than you made in a month." Marcus's voice cracked. "You saved my life, James. Not just from that truck. You showed me what kind of man I really was, and what kind of man I could become." "Mr. Wellington." "Marcus, please." James nodded. "Marcus, everyone deserves a chance to change. Rich or poor, we all make mistakes. Will you help me? Will you come back to work for me? Not as my driver, but as my friend? I want to learn from you." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "I'd like that." 6 months later, everything had changed. Marcus had given James a promotion to head of his new charitable foundation. James now earned more in a month than he'd previously made in a year. But more importantly, he was helping Marcus distribute millions to families in need. Sarah's medical bills were covered. Emma was preparing for college on a full scholarship Marcus had created. James's son was studying engineering, his dreams finally possible. But the biggest change was in Marcus himself. He'd learned to see people as human beings, not bank account balances. He'd discovered that true wealth came from lifting others up, not putting them down. The car accident had lasted 3 seconds. The lesson had lasted a lifetime. Marcus still remembered that moment when James pulled him from the car. A poor man saving a rich man. A good man saving a lost man. A teacher saving a student. Sometimes the people we look down on are actually looking down on us from a height we can't even see, the height of human decency. Marcus had been the poorest man in that intersection, and James had been the richest. It just took nearly dying for Marcus to understand the difference. Now, every morning when Marcus woke up, he remembered that he was alive because someone he treated terribly chose to save him anyway. It was a humbling way to start each day, and every morning, Marcus tried to earn that second chance. Sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what truly matters. Marcus thought wealth was measured in dollars, but James taught him it's measured in kindness, courage, and compassion. The question is, how do we measure wealth in our own lives? Are we rich in the things that money can't buy? Love, friendship, integrity, and service to others? Or are we poor in spirit? Like Marcus was, judging people by their bank accounts instead of their character? Think about the people in your life. Have you ever dismissed someone because of their appearance, their job, or their financial status? Have you ever treated someone as less valuable because they had less money? James could have walked away that day. He could have thought, this man fired me and ruined my life. He deserves what's coming. Instead, he chose compassion over revenge, love over hate. That choice didn't just save Marcus's life, it transformed it. We all have moments when we can choose to be like James or like Marcus. We can choose to see the humanity in others, or we can choose to see only their circumstances. We can choose to lift people up, or we can choose to look down on them. The beautiful truth is that when we choose kindness, when we choose to see the worth in every person regardless of their situation, we don't just change their lives, we change our own. Marcus learned that being truly wealthy means being rich in character. It means treating everyone with dignity and respect. It means understanding that a person's worth isn't determined by their paycheck, but by their heart. So here's a question I want to leave you with. What kind of person are you when nobody's watching? What kind of person are you when it would be easier to walk away than to help? What kind of person are you when someone can't do anything for you in return? Your answer to that question determines whether you're truly rich or truly poor. And remember, it's never too late to change. If Marcus Wellington can transform from a heartless billionaire into a compassionate human being, then any of us can become better versions of ourselves. The only question is, will you? What do you think about this story? Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance or circumstances? Share your thoughts in the comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to Beyond Yesterday for more inspiring stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Every subscription helps us continue sharing stories that matter, stories that change hearts and minds, one view at a time. Because at the end of the day, we're all just human beings trying to make our way in this world. And sometimes, the person who looks like they need help the most is actually the one with the most to teach us.